Most people learn about themselves only once they've been tested. Today, we talk to a man who has over 5,000 miles of lessons learned on the Fat Man's Guide podcast. Chapter 10, Cole Burke. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Fat Man's Guide. Before we get going, again, I want to thank you all for listening. Ask that you please comment, like, subscribe, and if you could, go to iTunes and leave us a review. And I don't want to have to beg for it, but I would really like to have 5 stars. I'm going to get right into today. I'm super pumped for my interview. Today, we're going to be talking to Cole Burke, who is just a normal, everyday guy who one day said, you know what, I'm going to go hike the Appalachian Trail. And if you know anything about me, you know I love hiking, and I was super pumped to get him on here to talk about the Appalachian Trail. But not only did he do that, he joined a very even more elite group of individuals who not only have done the Appalachian Trail, but he decided he also wanted to do the Pacific Coast Trail. And so we're going to get a chance to talk to him about both. Now, here's the one thing about it. Our interview went on for quite a while because both of us could talk hiking all day. And so what I did is I broke it up into 2 episodes. In our first episode, chapter 10, we're going to be talking about what it was that got him into deciding to hike the AT, some of the lessons that he learned about himself on the AT hiking, and again, what hiking the AT was really kind of like. So without further ado, here's Cole Burke. All right, hey, so today we've got Cole Burke on the episode, and I'm really glad that you're on. Cole is he's a local guy from where I live here in Warren County, PA. And one of the reasons I brought Cole on is I'm super jealous of this dude. Right? Anyone who knows me knows that I absolutely love hiking. Got my A100 shirt on today. I absolutely love hiking, and Cole has done, for any of us who are hiking fans, he's gotten a chance to do what all of us want to do, which is hike one of the long distance trails. In particular, he's actually done 2 of them. He's he's hiked the A100. He's hiked the AT, the Appalachian Trail. He's also hiked the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. And so I got a hold of him, and he was nice enough to come on. I just wanted to talk to him about some of the things that he learned on the trail, how cool of an experience it was. So I'm just going to start right up with it, Cole. What first got you into thinking that you wanted to hike? Because you did the AT first, and
Right.
and that's kind of the normal procedure for a lot of people. For those who don't know, the AT gets about 3,000 people a year who attempt it. About 25% succeed. I mean, it's. I think it also shows how many people don't really know what they're getting into when they do it. What got you into the AT, and maybe not along with that? What did you learn in those first 4 or 5 weeks?
Well, the kind of started all off. It was like years before I actually hiked. I was just on YouTube, and I love documentaries, and I came across this National Geographic one, and it was called the Appalachian Trail. I was like, what's that? I knew about the Appalachian Mountains.
You know what? I'm going to stop you right there, because that is the exact same documentary. And I think 2010, I watched it, and I'm like, this is something I want to do.
Right?
Yeah, I know. So I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So I watched that, and it's like an hour long or something like that. And I just stared at my computer for an hour straight and just got totally lost in it. And then after that, it kind of just snowballed. I researched everything I could about the Appalachian Trail, and it was so interesting that there's a path from Georgia to Maine, and people walk it and just live outside for 5 months. And I love being outside and hunting, fishing, all that other stuff. And so I just kind of researched it, read some stuff on it, and never thought I'd actually do it. It was just something interesting to read about. And I used to look up gear, and if I ever did go, what would I pack, and the logistics of everything. And so fast forward a few years, I graduate from college. I start working, doing x-rays and CAT scans at various places. I didn't get a full-time job right away. So I had 3 different part-time jobs here and there. And then I got a full-time job at the hospital in Jamestown, New York. But then I kept on the other jobs that, try and get money, pay off the student loans. And I just like burnt myself out. Like I was working all different shifts. I'd have to make sure I went to the right hospital, and I was just not a happy guy. I knew something had to change, but I didn't know what. Should I move somewhere? What should I do? And then I actually read a book. I'm going to do a little advertising here. It's called Hiking Through by Paul Stutzman.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this book, he lost his wife to breast cancer, and he needed a change. He worked at a successful restaurant as a manager, went out there, it changed his life. I was like, well, maybe I'm on to something here, maybe I could do this dream. But I'm like, I can't just quit my job and leave everything for 5 months. I'm like, and then it just kept weighing on my mind. I'm like, I need a sign of some sort. And then I just like got so stressed and anxious every time I went to work that it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, I think I need to do this. I think I need to try something new. And, if I fail, I fail. At least I know, I gave it a shot. So that was like 5 years after I watched that documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I talked to my mother. She's a saint. I explained it, and she's like, I think you should do it. So I was like, holy smokes, like somebody actually thinks I should go do this. My dad, a little different story on him. He's more realistic and, parents, I guess. But so the plan was in motion, and, I talked to people at work, and I was like, my manager and stuff. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this. And I'm like, I'll let you know in a couple months. And this is like December or something. So at the first of the year, I told him, hey, I'm going to do this. And, I gave him my last day. I started the trail on April 3rd. And my last day at work was like April 1st. So I worked right up to the end. But long story short, I just burnt myself out and needed a change. And the Appalachian Trail just kept calling to me. So,
I was going to ask this question later, but you've already opened up the little Pandora's box. I know that when I really got into it, and unfortunately I haven't got to do the big trails yet. And honestly, with COVID, there was a part of me thinking, because, I coach football, which means I have no vacation. I have no life. And I was just joking with someone this morning that if for some reason, and I don't want to see that happen because I love coaching football, but if for some reason that they weren't going to let me do anything this summer going into the fall, it's going to be real hard for me not to go out there and at least start a section. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, the first time I went out, when I section hiked the Pennsylvania North Country Trail, so I did 231 miles, and I told everyone, and I was fat, I was stressed like you, and this is what kind of strikes me is I was so stressed with work, I was so stressed with life. I remember watching that documentary, and I told my wife, God love her, but I told my wife, I need to do that. And she looked at me, she goes, you couldn't do that. And I'm like, what? Because for me, at my point, I was in my early 30s. I remember, being this guy when I was, 20, 21, 22, man, I could take on the friggin' world. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden now you have this thing where you got 4 kids, you got the weight of the world on you. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different, but it's exactly the same.
Right.
And I had this thing where she's like, I mean, look at you, physically, you couldn't do it. And it actually drove me to make life changes so I could get on that trail. And when I did, I told her, I'm like, I need to have a window, because I'm coaching football. I'm like 10 days. And everyone's like, you're not hiking 230 plus miles in 10 days. And I'm like, really? Guess what? And I pushed myself a little too hard, but I made it, right? I even had a rest day in there because I was hurting so bad. But when I did it, being out for 10 days, it was only 10 days. You were out there for 150 some on that trail?
150 days, exactly.
150 days. What do you learn? Because okay, so life stress pushed you to the trail. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do this. They may not do the long trails. So even hikers who do short trails can appreciate this. Your life stress pushed you to the trail. What did you learn? I mean, for me, just that 10 days changed my entire life. It changed my entire life and perspective on the world, where I was, what I was doing, what kind of a man I was. What did that trail do for you?
Wow. I mean, I feel like the first 10 days is like the hardest part because you just get thrown into it and you have so much to learn. You can set your tent up in the backyard, as much as you want, but until you're setting your tent up in a windstorm and a thunder and lightning storm, and everything's wet, you know, you really don't know. And like, as far as training goes, I didn't have, you know, it was winter here in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, the best training I could do is throw some weights in a backpack and hike up and down the mountain I live on. But other than that, you know, I mean, you're not going to be prepared. So you get thrown into it and you have all these aches and pains and blisters, and you're kind of scared because you're in the middle of the woods and you don't know anybody and you don't know where the roads are. And yeah, the first couple of weeks, it was pretty rough. You know, I mean, the first day it was pouring down rain. The second day was hot and sunny. I got sunburnt and dehydrated. And then the third day it snowed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I got
classic Georgia, Tennessee type stuff up in the mountains.
I just couldn't believe it was snowing in Georgia. And I'm like, so I got like the trifecta of challenges right off the bat, and then the mountains there. I mean, my knees killed me. I had like patellar tendonitis pretty bad, and I was hobbling up and down these mountains, and I was like, holy smokes, I'm not even 100 miles in and I'm like dying here.
Well, and you know what really struck me about that was when I finally got a chance a couple summers ago to take my family on our first real vacation. Growing up on a farm, I've never actually been on a vacation. Between farming and coaching, I've never taken more than 3 days off to do anything other than that 10-day hike. So we went, like, if we're going to have a family vacation, we're going to Tennessee. And my wife was like, you're going to the Smoky Mountains. And of course, I'm like, going to Smoky Mountains, and we were going to go to Clingman's Dome. I'm like, so I had one of my happiest moments is when I took a picture there at Clingman's Dome, the highest point on the trail, right there in front of the sign. I was so like, someday I'm doing this. But if you've never been down there, you don't understand just like how much that chain of mountains just springs out of nowhere. It's like, I'm sitting there as we're going up to Clingman's Dome, I'm like, oh my goodness, this hiking's gonna suck. This is gonna be terrible. I mean, it's no White Mountains up there, I suppose, but that's still pretty intense.
Yeah.
So like the first, that you said like the first 10 days is the toughest, and statistically speaking, that's where a lot of people quit right off the bat.
Yeah, they quit before they even leave Georgia, which is 80 miles.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people drop out. So
yeah, it's definitely something where you learn a lot about yourself, because you're in that. And like you said, I remember my first day on my short hike, which again doesn't really compare, but the idea of it does, because I'm like, I'm getting 25 miles today. It's just here in, Allegheny Mountains. I mean, your biggest climbs are 600-700 feet, per mile. And I remember after that first day, my buddy Jeremy, if he's listening, will remember this moment. I passed out on a log, and he's like, dude, what do you want to do? And I come back, he's like, you okay? I'm like, we're setting up a tent, and I didn't have enough water. We were on top of a mountain. There was no water. And these are like things that you don't think about when you're out there, right? And I remember like that night, I'm sitting in my tent. I hear porcupines scream for the first time. They sound like little babies dying.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, what's out here? And I remember the next morning I was so dehydrated, and I'm a big dude, I'm like really dehydrated. Everything hurts. I've got a slig of water in the bottom. I'm like, I don't want to waste it because we aren't even to the top of this hill yet. And I'm like, I don't know where the next water is. And I get out and I see all this dew on the tent, right? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm licking dew off my tent. Is that the type of stuff that you experienced as well, where you're like, I didn't realize who I was and what I was willing to do at any given, like you find out about yourself?
You really do. Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, there was plenty of water for the most part on the Appalachian Trail, but like my first full day of hiking was like the really sunny and hot day. And I was just like so excited to like be hiking. I just kind of forgot about eating. I didn't drink enough. And by the time I got to camp, I was like it was scary because I didn't even have enough energy to set up my tent. I just laid on the ground, and I was like, I gotta drink, I gotta eat something. And so I just started chugging water, and I lay there for probably an hour and a half before I could even move to set up my tent. And I was like, well, that was stupid. And especially being like working in a hospital, people come in dehydrated all the time. I'm like, just drink some water. And then here I am laying on the ground like an idiot. But
And you know, I think one of the things too that I learned real early on when I got into hiking is I'm most people have watched my videos know I'm pretty cheap on gear. There's one thing I'm not cheap on is footwear,
Mhm.
because obviously
Yeah.
that's key. But you know, I don't know if people really appreciate hitting day after day after day of those, like, you know, really hard climbs or high mile days, that when
Mhm.
you sit down your feet hurt so bad that you literally have no interest in getting back up and even making food at that point or making a fire,
Yeah.
because you're like, no, my feet hurt so bad. I'm just going to sit here and maybe I'll just pass out and I'll wake up tomorrow
Yeah.
morning.
It's so true. Yeah. I had blisters at the beginning too. I kind of didn't really figure out my footwear 100%, but yeah. But once, after the first week or two, you kind of like, you figure out like what to do and the things not to do. And then you kind of like settle into it, and it's not that it's easy after that, not that you don't hurt, but you've learned so much in that short amount of time that it really does help. And I feel like people that quit, a lot of people that quit in the first 100 miles, they have injuries that they can't overcome, or it's just not for them. But I feel like if you can like push past that point and like start to heal up, it takes a while for your body to realize what you're doing day after day. You're not sitting down for 10 hours a day anymore. You're hiking for 12 hours a day, and you're sleeping on the cold hard ground every night, and your body's going to have to adjust to it. So once you can, get adjusted to that, and your body's like, okay, let's do this. Let's keep going. So it's a
So,
mental thing and it's a physical thing for sure.
because, and I already told you that, unfortunately, I think I could do 4 of these episodes because I have so many things I want to talk to you about. And I think a lot of things people would love to hear about. So I'm going to kind of jump around.
Yeah.
But you just talked about how much you get into the grind. And even in my 10-day hike, I can remember that, where I think back to my last day, man, I was hurting, had really bad shit. Well, I thought they were shin splints. I ended up finding out they were stress fractures. So
Yeah.
I was taping up what I thought were shin splints. My legs were swollen. And
Oh,
I remember just grinding mile after mile after mile. And I kept a journal. I told my wife that,
mhm.
like, that first couple of days of that journal, it's just like you said, it's like, oh, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing out here. This is crazy, this, that, and everything else. And by the end of it, you almost become Zen-like. You start
Mhm.
accepting the pain, accepting
Yep.
everything else. And you just mile after mile, you just put one foot in front of the other.
That's right.
And so do you think that when you came back to the world, that helped you? Because remember, you said you went to work, you got overstressed and everything else.
Mhm.
Do you feel that new view of yourself and how far you could push yourself past uncomfortable, do you think that helped you when you came back?
Absolutely. I mean, I always say the hardest part about hiking the Appalachian Trail was getting the courage to quit my job, leave everything, and go like follow a dream. So once I finished the Appalachian Trail, and it was like the greatest thing in my life, I was like, well, what's holding me back now? Like, I'm not scared to try something else. I'm not scared to try new things and go, out of my comfort zone. Like, I mean, it worked out. I had the best 5 months of my life. I'm like, and then on top of not being scared to do stuff, I realized how happy I could be with almost nothing. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
lived out of a backpack for 5 months. I didn't have TV and all this other stuff, that distracts us. I just had like a food bag and some clothes, and I was just outside, and I'm like, man, I don't really need anything to be happy. I could just go outside for free. And so it just kind of made me realize, what I don't need in life. And I don't know, I'm not like a minimalist, I guess, but kind of,
But
I guess.
you realize what the important things are. So if there are
Yeah.
important things, you appreciate a bed. I mean,
Yes.
that you never thought how much you'd appreciate that. But I remember after my 10 days, I'm just like, oh, I just want to lay in a bed so bad. I mean, I don't care how bad I don't think I've had a bad bed experience
Yeah.
since in 10 years, just because anytime I'm feeling bad, I'm like, you remember sleeping on the ground and I
Yeah.
didn't, I'm trying to remember, I had like the worst, cheapest air mattress
Hmm.
imaginable. So it was like by the morning it was gone anyways, because I'm big.
Yeah.
and I'm just laying on rocks but yeah, I think where you're getting to is just to appreciate those things that are important. And what I started recognizing was the things that weren't important, that I stopped sweating them. I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't enter into my mind and I don't get frustrated,
Right,
but if I stop myself, breathe, and go, this truly doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, like the little petty things and like gossip and stuff like that. It was just like so easy not to get caught up in it because, I mean, it's so, yeah, like you said, it's so minute and petty, and it's just, it doesn't even matter really, and it's
hill,
crazy. It's hard to explain, but.
Oh no, the trail changes your perspective. I remember when I finished the 10 days, I called my buddy Jeremy, and I said, hey, what's up? He goes, not much. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I just finished. He goes, you just finished? Because he hiked with me the first 2 days. So
Okay.
he hiked about 70 miles with me. And I mean, Jeremy's, he's a physical freak. He did the A100 first time and finished it. I mean, Jeremy's a beast. And here I am, fat me, dragging up the hills behind him, smelling terrible. And I call him up and I say, I just finished. He goes, I thought you would have quit by now. I was like, no, dude, I pushed all the way through. I just finished, got it done in 10 days. I'm sitting on Route 51 up north of Pittsburgh on the Ohio State line. And then I called my dad, and my dad asked me this great question. He goes, so now that you've done it, would you do it again? I said, oh, hell no. No. Oh, I'm so beat up, right? And this brings me into my next question, because you're talking about how people can't understand how it changes you. Mm-hmm. Because now you've done it. Awesome. You finished it. And everyone, you can be proud of yourself. People will be in awe of you. You get done. And my thing was, I said, oh, I'd never do it again. In a week and a half, I'm sitting in my backyard at my child's birthday party on the 4th of July going, I really want to get back out on a trail. and clearly that's what you did, because you decided at that point to go from the Appalachian Trail. And how long did it take before you decided to do the PCT?
Oh, I decided I wanted to do it when I was on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. So you're already like, I'm miserable. I need to keep this going.
Yeah, I love being miserable and depleted of all my resources. I mean, I had a blast like the entire Appalachian Trail and never thought about quitting. I was like, man, like I didn't want it to end. And I was like, well, there's other trails out there. I'm not scared to quit my job. I'm like, I've never been further west than Chicago. And I'm like, I met a lot of people on the Appalachian Trail that had hiked the PCT. They're going for the Triple Crown or whatever. And they were talking about how great the views were, and there weren't trees. They call the Appalachian Trail the Green Tunnel. Mm-hmm. And there's not trees, so you have views all the time. And I was like, man, that sounds great. I'm like, so it was already in my head. And then I pretty much decided before I finished the Appalachian Trail that I was going to, at some point, do the Pacific Crest Trail.
All right, guys. So there's the first episode. Again, we're gonna be I'm gonna be posting the next episode, chapter 11, here very, very shortly. Please make sure you get on that and finish, because he's gonna be talking a lot about the differences between the AT and the PCT. And I thought there was a lot of really interesting stuff that he talked about there. And not only that, but just ultimately what hiking has done for him as an individual and a person. So make sure you get up and check that one out as well. As we leave, of course, just want to remind y'all that we really appreciate you listening. Please like, subscribe, share. Definitely share this, because I think there's a lot to learn for anyone, whether you're a hiker or just a normal person. And as always, folks, live life to the fullest without excuses, even in crazy times like these. See ya.